One of the big trends that we've seen in the past, I'd say 6 to 8 months, has been the growth of header bidding. It's something that I'm pretty intimately familiar with, having worked at LiftDNA when we used it to hit multiple exchanges simultaneously. And that's technology that ported over to OpenX, and now we're seeing a lot more companies, OpenX, Rubicon, Sonobi, Index, all starting to get into header bidding. I think one of the big questions that people have is this a technology that's only good for the publisher? Is it good for the publisher? Is it a technology that could be good for the advertiser? And the answer, I think, is definitively yes. You can use it to the advantage of both the advertiser and the publisher. The biggest part of header bidding is you get to see 100% of the users, whereas traditionally programmatic, which has come from the bottom up, you've only been exposed to the users that were not, were not consumed by the guaranteed buys. With a header, you get to see all of them. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can win them all. You have to understand 3 scaled systems. You have to understand the publisher's ad server, the exchange layer, if you're using one, and then how the DSP is going to bid. If you don't understand all 3 of those, you can get caught being able to see 100% of the users, but not being able to action on them. I see a lot of publishers setting up the header bids at priorities that are exchange available, and that's something that I used to do a lot. But that doesn't necessarily meet the advertiser's need. So we've been working a lot with brands like Target to actually use headers and pieces like that for programmatic guaranteed. And what we found is that we're able to hit the guarantee with the publisher, so volume, value, and flight dates. We write a check that we're committed to after a certain amount of time, and so it's not really bidding. And I think that's one of the misnomers about headers. It's really a piece of information that's a signal that's passed into the ad server, and it doesn't have to be a variable price. And what we've been doing is been able to take the direct-to-publisher guarantees and make them programmatic, or more importantly, I think, real-time data informed. That transition is incredibly powerful. One, it gets out of the Google ecosystem, which is pretty important. It can put 20% back in the publisher's pocket if you know how to structure the deal. And then finally, the advertiser is able to inform the ad server in real time about the users that it wants to apply to its guarantee. So we've seen 300, sometimes 500% improvements in advertiser performance when all 3 systems are working properly, which we've been able to do successfully with large-scale budgets on large publishers like Hearst, Time Inc., Cafe Mom. It's been really powerful and exciting, but I think there's also a lot of confusion around it. As I said before, people are manipulating it in ways that might not be helpful to the publisher, might not be helpful to the marketer, and that confusion leads to a lot of potential distrust for it. Publishers say, I'm not seeing the lift. My guess is they're probably not deploying it properly. Advertisers are saying, I'm not seeing the increased value. That's probably because they're not deploying it or asking the right questions. And so it's really a product that has a lot of potential, but you have to know how to use it very well and intimately, and it requires work. State of programmatic in 2016, I don't think it's any unhealthier than it was in the past. I think that the better we get at it, we start uncovering issues. We also find people exploiting inherent weaknesses in technology. That's the type of thing that happens in any growing market. It's always disappointing when you see bad actors leveraging things that remove trust from an ecosystem. But I think that it's prevalent enough that we have to really work on it, and everyone's going to have their own system for working on it. But it's not something that's going to be the end of the industry. I think that you can go into programmatic and you can still negotiate directly with a publisher. You can still make sure you're getting exactly what you want. You can leverage large-scale budgets efficiently, but you can't come in and do it foolishly. And I think that a lot of the fraud issues that we're seeing are the result of people not knowing how to actually use the systems, being exploited by people who know them too well and maybe don't have the best interests of all the parties involved. If you know what you're doing, you can really do a lot of work to make sure you're not exposed to the bad actors, or the bad traffic, bad advertisers, but you have to do a bit more work. It's not just to turn it on, set it, forget it. And I think that that's something that's important across all parts of the ecosystem. When we saw a couple of years ago people saying deals don't scale, my role of partnerships at MediaMath, I'm looking at it going, no, you're just doing it wrong. If you know how to do it, if you have the right methodology, deals do scale. They make more money for people. They add a level of security to things. If you use the open exchange correctly, it can become the best resource you have for deal discovery and discovering things you don't know. If you do it poorly, in all cases, you're going to have issues. So I think the state of programmatic is very healthy. I think the state of programmatic is changing. You've got walled gardens. Those walled gardens present a challenge and require new approaches to creating programmatic. But that's something that people are overcoming and starting to be able to stitch both the open ecosystem and the walled gardens together. That's really an exciting thing. So I think it's still growing and very healthy.